For centuries, a single, unwavering belief defined modern warfare. It was a rule etched into the minds of generals and taught in the halls of the most prestigious military academies. The idea was simple: a disciplined, organized army, with its rigid formations, reliable supply lines, and centralized command, would always crush an irregular, scattered force. This wasn't just a theory. It was a doctrine forged in the fires of European conflicts, refined over generations of linear tactics, standardized weapons, and strict, hierarchical control. In this world, predictability was strength, and deviation was chaos. When American expansion pushed westward, this military philosophy came with it. Officers trained at West Point, rugged frontier commanders, and politicians in Washington, D.C. all carried the same unshakable assumption. They looked out across the vast, open plains and saw a new theater for an old strategy. Their military manuals, their training, their entire way of thinking reinforced a single narrative: that Native American warriors, for all their bravery, fought without a grand plan. They were seen as impulsive, disorganized, and lacking the strategic mind needed for sustained warfare. Their victories were dismissed as mere acts of surprise, not products of genuine intelligence or sophisticated planning. The Comanche, in particular, were cast in this role. They were labeled as primitive raiders, a fleeting nuisance that would inevitably be swept aside by the relentless march of progress. And why wouldn't the United States military believe this? They had the numbers, they had the factories churning out repeating firearms, they had organized cavalry regiments, drilled to perfection. They had an ever-expanding network of forts and supply lines, a logistical behemoth designed to project power deep into the frontier. The logic seemed unbreakable. If they could just corner the Comanche, force them into a conventional, stand-up fight, their resistance would crumble under the sheer weight of concentrated firepower. The scattered bands would be no match for a disciplined volley. It was a matter of when, not if. This wasn't just a strategy. It was an article of faith for the United States Army. But faith can be a fragile thing, and out on the windswept plains of the West, under the vast, unforgiving sky, this bedrock belief was about to be put to the ultimate test. The Comanche were not just raiders. They were masters of their domain, with a military system as complex and effective as any in the world, just different. They were a horse-born empire, a fluid, decentralized power that defied every rule in the Army's playbook. While the Americans were trying to fight a war of lines and formations, the Comanche were fighting a war of movement, of knowledge, of the land itself. They could strike like lightning and vanish like the morning mist, leaving confusion and frustration in their wake. 4 years, the two sides clashed, a series of skirmishes and campaigns that chipped away at the Army's confidence. But the core doctrine held firm. It had to. To admit otherwise would be to question the very foundation of their military identity. Then came the year 1867, a year that would see this clash of cultures and strategies culminate in a single, defining moment. It wasn't a massive battle involving tens of thousands of soldiers. It wasn't a siege of a great fortress. Instead, it was an encounter that would unfold in a way no one could have predicted. In that moment, one event, one action, would utterly shatter the long-held rule of military superiority. It would prove that discipline, logistics, and firepower were not the only paths to victory. It would reveal the stunning brilliance of Comanche strategy and forever change the way the United States Army understood warfare on the American frontier. The unbreakable rule was about to break. In the summer of 1867, a peace commission was sent to negotiate with the powerful tribes of the southern plains, including the Kiowa, Apache, Cheyenne, Arapaho, and the formidable Comanche. The goal was the Treaty of Medicine Lodge Creek, an attempt to confine the tribes to reservations and open up their ancestral lands for settlement. The U.S. government brought its usual tools of persuasion, promises of annuities, supplies, and the implicit threat of overwhelming military force. Thousands of native warriors gathered, a spectacular display of plains culture at its zenith. Among them was a Comanche war chief who watched the proceedings with a keen, analytical eye. His name was Quanah, but before the main treaty talks, a smaller, more dramatic encounter took place. General Winfield Scott Hancock, a man known for his rigid, by-the-book approach, had earlier led an expedition that resulted in the burning of a Cheyenne village. This act of aggression had inflamed the plains, and tensions were razor-thin. It was in this charged atmosphere that a company of U.S. cavalry, armed with the latest Spencer repeating carbines, found themselves facing a group of Comanche warriors. It was the exact scenario American officers had always dreamed of, a direct confrontation on open ground. The cavalrymen formed their lines, confident that their superior firepower and discipline would carry the day. They were ready to prove the doctrine, to deliver the crushing blow that would break the Comanche spirit. What happened next defied all military logic. Instead of charging headlong into a hail of bullets or scattering in fear, the Comanche warriors did something extraordinary. They began to ride in a large, circling formation around the beleaguered soldiers. This wasn't a chaotic, impulsive rush, it was a perfectly coordinated maneuver. As they galloped, each warrior would lean far down the side of his horse, using the animal's body as a moving shield. From this seemingly impossible position, they fired their own weapons, bows and arrows, and older firearms with astonishing accuracy. The cavalrymen, trained to fight a stationary or charging enemy, were completely bewildered. Their targets were constantly moving, appearing and disappearing behind a whirlwind of horseflesh. The soldiers' disciplined volleys, meant to shatter a static line, were largely ineffective, kicking up dust far from their intended marks. This tactic, which came to be known as the Comanche wheel, was a masterpiece of mounted warfare. It neutralized the Americans' technological advantage and turned their greatest strength, disciplined, stationary firepower, into a critical weakness. The soldiers were trapped in a vortex of their own making, unable to break out, unable to effectively fight back. For them, it was a terrifying, disorienting nightmare. For the Comanche, it was a symphony of skill, coordination, and tactical genius. They were not just individual warriors. They were a cohesive fighting unit, communicating through subtle signals, adjusting their speed and distance, and applying pressure with chilling precision. This wasn't a primitive raid. This was a sophisticated military operation, executed with a level of horsemanship and coordination the world had never seen. The belief that native warriors lacked strategic coherence was obliterated in that circle of dust and arrows. The army had brought a system designed for the battlefields of Europe to a land that operated by entirely different rules. They had assumed their enemy was predictable, only to find them masters of fluid, adaptive warfare. The Comanche didn't need fixed supply lines because the plains themselves were their supply line. They didn't need a centralized command structure because their authority was decentralized, resting in the proven skill and wisdom of their war chiefs. They didn't need fortified positions because their defense was mobility, their fortress the vastness of the prairie itself. The moment the Comanche wheel began to turn, the old doctrine died. It was a brutal lesson, taught not in a classroom, West Point, but on the bloody ground of the American West. It proved that true military genius isn't about adhering to a single, rigid set of rules, but about understanding your environment, your enemy, and yourself. And in 1867, no one understood the art of war on the plains better than the Comanche. This single event sent shockwaves through the U.S. military establishment. Reports from the field struggled to describe what had happened. How could a seemingly disorganized band of warriors so thoroughly dominate a well-armed, professional cavalry unit? It forced a painful reevaluation of everything they thought they knew. The myth of the impulsive, primitive fighter was shattered, replaced by a grudging respect for a cunning and formidable adversary. Officers began to understand that they were not fighting a lesser version of themselves. They were fighting a completely different kind of army, one that had perfected its own unique and devastatingly effective form of warfare over generations. The lessons learned from the Comanche wheel would slowly, painstakingly, be integrated into American military strategy. The Army began to adapt, developing its own light cavalry tactics, relying more on scouts who understood the land, and learning the hard way that a war on the plains could not be won with arrogance and outdated manuals. It was a long and bloody process of adaptation, a testament to the powerful influence the Comanche had on their would-be conquerors. The story of that day serves as a timeless reminder that true strength isn't always found in numbers, technology, or rigid discipline. Sometimes, it's found in the ability to adapt, to innovate, and to turn the world's expectations completely upside down. The Comanche had done just that, securing their place in history as mere raiders, but as some of the most brilliant light cavalry and military strategists the world has ever known. My name is Quanah. My mother called me by another name, one whispered from a world she lost long ago. She was Cynthia Ann Parker, a white woman taken as a child, but she became Comanche in her heart. She gave me to bloods, to spirits, but only one home, these plains. This land is our mother. The sky is our father. The wind is our breath. Before I could walk steady, I could ride. My legs knew the warmth of a horse's flank better than they knew the solid ground. My first toy was a small bow. My first lesson was how to track a deer, how to read the story written in hoofprints and broken twigs. My second lesson was how to vanish, to become one with the tall grass, a shadow in the dust. My father, Peter Nocona, was a chief, a warrior whose name made even the Texas Rangers ride a little taller in their saddles. He taught me that our strength is not in walls of stone, but in the speed of our ponies and the courage in our hearts. We are the Namina, the people. We live from the back of a horse. We hunt the buffalo, our brother, who gives us everything, meat for our bellies, hides for our lodges, bones for our tools. To be Comanche is to be in motion. To be still is to invite death. But the world is changing. From the east, a new people are coming. They call themselves Americans. They are like ants, endless and tireless. After fighting a great war among themselves, their soldiers came west. We heard stories of this war, of men falling like blades of grass before a fire, of cannons that spoke with the voice of thunder. These soldiers, the blue coats, carry new rifles that spit fire faster than a striking snake. They build forts of wood and earth along our rivers, choking the lifeblood of our land. They call them outposts of civilization. We call them scars. They lay down iron roads for their smoke-belching wagons, and these iron snakes cut our hunting grounds in half. They do not understand the land. They see it as something to be owned, to be fenced in, to be broken. For us, the land owns us. It is not a thing, but a living being. They made treaties, speaking words of peace while their hands held weapons. They drew lines on maps and told us this land was ours, and that land was theirs. But how can you draw a line on the wind? How can you own the horizon? My father and the other chiefs tried to speak with them, but their words are like dust, blowing away as soon as they are spoken. They promise peace and then send their hunters. These hunters are not like us. They do not kill the buffalo for food or for hides. They kill for sport, for the tongue, or sometimes for nothing at all. They leave the bodies to rot under the sun, a carpet of death stretching 4 miles. I have seen it with my own eyes. A sea of once mighty beasts, their eyes staring blankly at the sky, the silence deafening. They are killing our brother, the buffalo. But they are not just killing an animal. They are trying to kill our spirit. Their generals, men with names like Sherman and Sheridan, believe this is the way to defeat us. They think if they destroy our food, we will surrender. They think that without the buffalo, the Comanche will starve and crawl to their reservations, begging for scraps from their table. This is their logic, the logic of a people who fight over cities and supply lines. They fought their own war this way. They believe we are the same. They are wrong. They think they are fighting an army. They are fighting a whirlwind. They think they can conquer a territory. They are fighting the spirit of the plains itself. We do not fight for territory. Our territory is wherever our horses can run. We do not have cities to defend. Our lodges are our homes, and we can move them with the rising sun. We do not have supply lines for them to cut. The land provides for us, or it did, before they started to poison it. They think they can corner us, trap us. But we are the children of the wind. We strike, and we are gone. We are a whisper on the prairie, a ghost in the canyons. To fight us is to fight the landscape itself. Still, the pressure grows. Every day, the horizon shrinks. More settlers come, their wagons carving deep ruts into the earth, their fences like spiderwebs trapping the land. The soldiers ride deeper into our lands, more confident, more numerous. Other tribes have given up. They have gone to the reservations, where they are given rotten meat and blankets filled with sickness. They are told how to live, what to believe, how to cut their hair. They are taught to forget who they are. They are made to be still. And to be still is to die. We, the Quahadi band of Comanche, have refused. We will not be caged. We will remain on the plains, the last of the people to ride free. But for how long? I am a young man, but I have seen more battles than many old warriors. I have felt the sting of a rifle ball and the thrill of a charge. I have seen friends fall beside me. I have learned to read the fear in a soldier's eyes, the moment he realizes the empty plain is not empty at all. But this new enemy is different. They do not fight with honor. They attack our camps when the warriors are away, killing women and children. They burn our lodges and our winter supplies. They want not just to defeat us in battle, they want to erase us. They want a world without the Comanche. Sometimes, I stand on a high mesa and look out at the land. My mother's world, the world of the white man, is a world of straight lines, of fences and roads and square houses. My father's world is a world of circles, the shape of the sun, the moon, our lodges, the sacred hoop of life. These two worlds are colliding, and I am caught in the middle. The elders say we must fight. The warriors agree. Our spirit is strong. We will not surrender our freedom. We will fight for our way of life, for the memory of the buffalo, for the land that is our mother. But a cold knot of doubt sometimes tightens in my gut. How do you fight an enemy that can replace every soldier you kill with 100 more? How do you fight an enemy who is killing the world itself? Their power seems endless, their hunger for land insatiable. They believe they are destined to own everything, from one great water to the other. They call it manifest destiny. It is a powerful medicine, this belief. It makes them relentless. They think we are savages, relics of a past that must be swept away to make room for their future. They do not see the beauty in our lives, the wisdom in our ways. They see only an obstacle to be removed. As I look toward the setting sun, painting the sky in colors of blood and fire, I know a great struggle is coming. It will be a fight not just for land, but for our very soul. They believe we are already defeated, that our story is already over. They have written us into their history books as a vanished people. But we are still here. I am still here. My name is Quana. I am Comanche. And our story is not over. As long as one of us can ride, as long as one of us remembers the songs, we will not be broken. We will fight. We will endure. The plains are our home, and we will not give them up without a fight that will echo in these canyons for 1,000 years. Thank you for listening. If you want to hear more stories of the Old West, please subscribe to our channel. You ride at dawn with fewer than 50 warriors, and each man understands the plan without spoken orders. Comanche warfare is a symphony of shared instinct, a connection forged over countless moons and under the vast, open sky. We move across the plains at a pace that American scouts, with their heavy saddles and burdened horses, cannot hope to match. Our ponies are not bred for the polished look of a parade ground. They are born of the wind and the earth, their hearts beating with a wild endurance that mirrors our own. Far in the distance, a blue line advances, an American cavalry detachment, more than 100 soldiers strong. They march toward a river crossing, their confidence built on superior numbers and the cold steel of their repeating rifles. But confidence can be a fragile thing in these lands. We observe them from miles away, hidden in plain sight. Our reconnaissance is not about fixed positions or written reports. It is a living, breathing thing. We are the eyes of the prairie, and we see everything long before contact is ever made. As the soldiers halt their march to water their horses at the river's edge, we melt into the landscape. Our small force splits into even smaller groups, each one a phantom that vanishes into the tall grass and the rolling terrain. The soldiers, clustered together, believe their numbers give them strength. They are wrong. Their numbers create a target. The attack does not begin with a glorious, thundering charge. That is not our way. It begins with isolation, a quiet and deadly dance at the edges. We strike the fringes, not the center, peeling away their defenses one man at a time. Suddenly, the air cracks with the sound of our rifles. A mounted rider appears, as if from nowhere, a fleeting silhouette against the sun. He fires a single, well-aimed shot, and is gone before the surprised soldiers can even aim their return fire. Then another rider, from a different direction, and another. We are ghosts on horseback, appearing and disappearing, sowing chaos and confusion. The soldiers scramble, trying to form a defensive line, but their movements are clumsy and slow. Every time they turn to face one threat, they expose a new flank to another. They are a lumbering beast, and we are the hornets stinging it from all sides. We do not need a commander shouting orders. We time our attacks by the rhythm of our own breath, by the thumping of our hearts in our chests. In the heart of the fight, seconds matter more than words. The air grows thick with dust, kicked up by the frantic hooves of panicked horses. The relentless heat of the sun beats down, and confusion becomes the soldiers' greatest enemy. Their formations dissolve into a disorganized mob. Horses scream, men shout, and the clear, disciplined line they marched in with is now just a memory. Some of the braver soldiers, or perhaps the more foolish ones, attempt a pursuit. They spur their tired mounts forward, chasing shadows. This is exactly what we want. We lead them away from the main group, into the broken ground of the arroyos and canyons. Here, their speed, once their advantage, becomes a liability. Their large, heavy horses struggle on the uneven terrain, while our nimble ponies navigate it with the grace of mountain goats. The pursuers become the pursued, isolated, and vulnerable. The entire engagement lasts less than 20 minutes. It is a whirlwind of precise, coordinated violence that leaves the American detachment shattered. They retreat with dozens of wounded men and several dead, their confidence broken, their pride wounded. They carry with them annoying, terrifying thought. They never saw the full force that defeated them. They fought against a ghost, a phantom army that struck from all directions at once. They will report that they were overwhelmed by a massive war party, perhaps hundreds of warriors. They will never know that they were undone by fewer than 50 men who moved as one, who fought with instinct, and who understood that the true art of war is not about numbers, but about the spirit. If you find this kind of forgotten history, these tales from the other side of the frontier, as fascinating as we do, we would be honored if you subscribed. These stories of courage, strategy, and sacrifice deserve to be remembered, and your support ensures they are never lost to the winds of time. The Comanche's repeated success with hit-and-run warfare completely upended how the American military thought about fighting. For generations, Western military doctrine was built around the idea of a single, decisive battle. You find the enemy, you line up, and you fight until one side breaks. But the Comanche refused to play by these rules. Their lightning-fast raids and equally fast retreats left American commanders frustrated and chasing ghosts across the vast plains. This constant pressure forced a major shift in thinking. The U.S. Army had to abandon its deeply ingrained assumptions about how wars were won. It wasn't about a climactic showdown anymore. It was about something entirely different. The elite cavalry, once seen as the arm of decision for a grand charge, had to reinvent itself. Instead of preparing for a set-piece battle, their doctrine began to change. The new focus was on scouting, relentless pursuit, and what military theorists call counter-mobility, essentially, trying to pin down an enemy that refused to be pinned down. Cavalrymen became trackers and long-distance riders, their primary job now being to find and harass Comanche bands, not to engage them in a formal fight. This was a difficult and often thankless transition, moving from the glorious charge of European tradition to the gritty, grueling work of frontier patrol. Because the United States couldn't force the Comanche into the kind of battles it knew how to win, it resorted to another strategy: containment. This led to a massive investment in a sprawling network of forts across Texas and the southern plains. These forts weren't just defensive strongholds. They were forward operating bases for patrols, supply depots, and communication hubs. The goal was to create a web of control, to project power into the heart of Comanche and make it impossible for the Comanche to move and raid with impunity. Long, arduous patrols became the new normal for soldiers, riding 4 weeks on end, often seeing nothing but endless prairie, hoping to intercept a raiding party or discover a hidden village. The strategic lessons learned during the Comanche Wars didn't just stay in Texas, they rippled forward, profoundly shaping how the U.S. Army would fight the later Plains Wars against tribes like the Sioux and Cheyenne. The concepts of total war, of attacking an enemy's resources and mobility, and the emphasis on scouting and pursuit became standard practice. The Army learned that against a highly mobile, non-state enemy, controlling territory and destroying their ability to sustain themselves was more effective than trying to win a single, glorious battle. This was the painful birth of America's approach to counterinsurgency and irregular warfare, lessons that would be relearned and reapplied in conflicts all over the world, even into the 21st century. It's easy to dismiss the Comanche way of war as primitive, but that would be a profound mistake. What looked like chaotic raiding was, in fact, a highly sophisticated system, perfectly optimized for their environment, their psychology, and above all, for speed. Their masterful horsemanship, their lightweight equipment, and their deep understanding of the terrain gave them an incredible advantage. They didn't need complex supply lines or heavy artillery because their strategy was built on mobility. They struck where their enemy was weakest and vanished before a response could be organized. This wasn't primitive. It was an intelligent and brutally effective form of asymmetric warfare, a masterclass in how to fight and win when you are outnumbered and outgunned. But we must never forget the devastating human cost of this conflict. For the Comanche, the war was a catastrophe. Beyond the battlefield casualties, thousands of lives were lost to diseases introduced by settlers, to starvation as the buffalo were systematically exterminated, and to the despair of eventual confinement on reservations. Entire bands were wiped out, and a vibrant, powerful culture was brought to the brink of extinction. It's a tragic story of loss, not just of life, but of a way of life that had existed for centuries. Acknowledging this immense suffering is crucial to understanding the full scope of the conflict. Out of this crucible of violence and loss emerges the remarkable figure of Quanah Parker. As one of the last and most formidable leaders of the Free Comanche, He witnessed the end of his people's world. He fought fiercely to defend it, leading warriors of the Quahodi band in some of the final, desperate battles. Yet, after the fight was lost, he survived. And he didn't just survive, he transformed. Quanah Parker transitioned from a feared war chief to a pragmatic and influential leader on the reservation, navigating the treacherous new world of government agents, land allotments, and cultural assimilation. He became a rancher, a businessman, and a powerful advocate for his people, striving to find a path for their survival on a world that had been turned upside down. Quanah Parker's story is so important because it shatters our preconceptions about what intelligence and strategy look like. It proves that sophisticated thinking, brilliant leadership, and strategic genius do not require industrial infrastructure, formal schooling, or written language. The Comanche leaders were strategists in their own right, operating within a different but equally valid intellectual framework. Quanah's life, both as a warrior and a reservation leader, demonstrates a profound adaptability and a keen intellect that challenges us to broaden our definition of what it means to be a strategist. It's a powerful reminder that wisdom can be found in the most unexpected of places. And now, the responsibility of memory falls to you. History isn't a static collection of facts in a book. It's a living story that needs to be told and retold. It fades when we allow it to be simplified into one-dimensional stereotypes: the savage warrior or the noble victim. The truth is always more complex, more human, and more meaningful. By learning and sharing stories like this, you actively participate in the preservation of history. You push back against the erosion of memory and ensure that the nuances and complexities of the past are not forgotten. If this story of struggle, strategy, and survival moved you, please take a moment to click the like button. It truly helps our channel and allows us to keep this history alive for more people to discover. We are a team dedicated to rescuing these forgotten stories from the dusty archives and bringing them into the light. To join us on this mission, we invite you to subscribe to our channel, and we'd love to connect with you. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from, and if you have a family member who served in the military, feel free to share. Thank you for your time, and thank you for ensuring that Quanah Parker and the brave warriors of the Quahodi Band are not just footnotes in a textbook. They are remembered, because history only survives when we, together, choose to remember it.